Get ready to go off the page with Aspire Magazine's new podcast and YouTube channel. With me, Chuck Anderson, your host for Off the Page, featuring solutions, trends, and insights to help best serve your clients and grow your book of business. Welcome to Off the Page. This is our first episode. I'm Chuck Anderson, your host. To kick things off, I get to introduce the publisher and editor-in-chief of Aspire Magazine, Pam Sheehan, who's now also the executive producer of Off the Page. Welcome, Pam.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Hey, let's start talking about Aspire Magazine. It's been around a couple of years. I wanted to catch up with you about how long you've been doing Aspire, and it's a great magazine, by the way, but give us that story about Aspire.
Yeah, I started Aspire about 4 years ago because I felt that there was a gap in the insurance industry journals that were out there for everybody. And I wanted to provide support services to help both the BGAs and the advisors grow their business. And so there's a wealth of information and expertise within the independent distribution channel that I wanted to tap with contributing articles. And because they know the business better than any reporter or journalist knows it. And so I wanted to share those insights with our audience. And that's what we've done. And given the fact that most of our readers are salespeople in the industry, we've kept everything short and sweet and no fluff in the articles. So they're 1 or 2 pages long, and they're allowing our readers to get in and get the information and get on with their work. And that has really resonated with the distribution. And so we're excited to continue into the 4th year of the magazine.
4 years, and it's a great magazine, by the way. I've been a reader all along, a big fan from the very start, watching you build that. And along the way, and I know you and I have been talking for a few years now, but about doing a podcast, but kind of give us the story about how Off the Page came to be.
Well, again, because we have this wealth of expertise at our fingertips, we thought there's more to be said sometimes on these articles. With 1 or 2 pages, it's short, and so we felt that could we do another format that would allow for us to go deeper into the topics. And so Off the Page allows for that conversation to be had.
Yeah, it's a dream come true for me to become the host. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Took 44 years to get to the job I always wanted, but it's been great. And this first episode is very exciting. I'm glad that we can offer this in both a video on YouTube kind of channel format and podcast. So if you're listening while you're working out, or driving in your car to appointments back and forth, we want to provide that information. I think this will be a great opportunity for folks. And maybe just kind of wrap up with what your overall vision and mission is for Off the Page.
Yeah, well, like you said, I guess my hope is that, we're adding additional value to our readers or to our audience. To give them different ways to digest the information. And the beauty of a podcast, in my opinion, is the fact that we're able to have more of an intimate conversation than what's going on in an article. This allows us to have 2 experts or 3 experts discussing more at length the details behind a topic. And to have you as our expert host is just a perfect combination, because you have the BGA experience and the carrier experience, and I think that you have the ability to ask the questions that are insightful that our audience wants to hear. So I'm really excited to jump.
Me too. I really appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to more episodes where you get to join us. Right now, though, we're going to jump right into episode 1. Really excited to have everyone watching and listening today. And Pam, thank you so much for making this possible.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
This segment is sponsored by Corebridge Financial. Gain access to a comprehensive life insurance product portfolio, actionable insights, and proven tools to help you deliver solutions for every stage of life. From one of the largest and most established U.S. life insurance providers. Visit CorebridgeFinancial.com.
Our first segment for Off the Page, episode 1, is with a friend of mine, Todd Villeneuve, managing partner for IFC National Marketing, right here in the Twin Cities. Todd, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Chuck. I appreciate the invite.
He wrote an article for the January-February edition of Aspire magazine entitled, How Clients Can Achieve Lifelong Financial Health. And I found it to be very interesting. You really go into a lot of detail about the 3 steps that you take as an advisor to deal with your clients. Let's talk about the first step in your list there was about knowing your clients. I think that's so important.
Right. Well, I've been doing this a little over 35 years, and it's I found that you kind of have an arc in this industry from your natural market. And if you're starting when you're 20 nothing or 30 nothing, but the idea is that you need to start to learn what are the products and what are the concerns of those clients that you have when they're in their 20s. And then when they get to the 30s, they go from pre-kids and maybe just looking at mortgage protection to then maybe having the first couple of kids, and now they're worried about their children being funded for college and those type of things.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And along the way, you're going to tailor the solutions to all those life stages. And in the article, you talked about how cross-selling fits into that as well.
Yeah, we work with nearly 4,000 agents across the United States, and a lot of them are Medicare agents. And this year, Medicare constriction on commissions has really made a lot of people that used to have blinders and kind of a one-trick wonder to start to look at the whole portfolio that's available to them. Either they start to move their knowledge base up, or they need to partner with a group of professionals that they can help and either learn side by side, or if they work with an IMO like ours that has a concierge division that will teach you how to fish or fish for you. But you have to maximize that knowledge base to at least know what's coming up for your clients, and then know that there's the whole portfolio of products to help kind of take that risk away, and also then help the investment side.
The third step that is, I think, a really important one is focusing on building a legacy for your clients.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important as you talk about that arc and getting to know your clients is that you're asking the questions about what do they want to do with their money, or what do they want to have for their legacy. And you might want to have that conversation already at 45. Mm-hmm. We find that when people start to talk about legacies, they start to look at moving stagnant money to be able to create a bigger bang for their dollar kind of down the line, be it for their children, for their grandchildren, or their church, but it definitely gives back and creates a legacy.
What are some real life examples that you've dealt with where that cross-selling or just asking the questions and offering the solutions has made sense?
Yeah, I found that actually my largest trainer, or the thing that really hit hard for me, was that I didn't ask about life insurance. Mm-hmm. I was a multi-liner. I was with it was my uncle-in-law, I guess you would call him, my wife's uncle, and we had just insured his entire farm. And then I knew I was supposed to ask that question. I didn't have a fact finder in front of me. I didn't have a tablet, and I didn't have anything to prompt me. But to be honest, I probably was scared to ask that question, because he was this big farm dude, and I didn't ask it, and 6 months later he contracted cancer and he died 2 years after that.
That's unbelievable, yeah.
So we do agent training, we do it all the time, and I'm like, ask them for a fact. Mm-hmm. Do they know that their life insurance they're paying for today will provide them their death benefit they need tomorrow? And I teach every class I can that question.
And just have the conversation. They don't have
Absolutely.
To say yes. And I love how you talked about, from a cross-selling standpoint too, that working with an IMO, working with other agents, you can really satisfy all those needs and cover that arc between 20s and 60s or whatever. You
can decide to be a student of the game, mm-hmm. but you have your natural market. You get to learn too, because mm-hmm. you need those products just as much as they do. Yeah. And the product needs are term insurance first and all the protection products, and then you start to get more into the investment stuff. Then you start to get more for the bigger uses of insurance and life insurance. If you're at your learning curve limit, then you need to find the professional and partner with to get him in there, so you can maximize the value of your book, There's commission splits. There's referral fees, but your relationships need to be maximized monetarily because that's what you're going to sell and scale up and be able to sell it down the road.
Yeah, kind of the beauty of being in the business as long as you have, and a lot of the advisors you support, they've seen all stages, right? And that's, I think, what your article talks about. Really great getting to talk with you, Todd. Thank you for being on our first episode, and look forward to having you back in the future.
Well, it's really my pleasure, Chuck. You're one of my favorites.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can find Todd's full article on page 20 of the January-February edition of Aspire magazine for 2026. Link in the description below.
That was a great interview with Todd Villeneuve, IFC Marketing, brought to us by Corebridge. And right now I get to interview Lisa Todd, the head of life distribution at Corebridge Financial. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, Chuck. It's great to be part of the first launch of Off the Page.
Yeah, we're great to have you with us. And, Todd talked about all of the different, spanning the life of the whole client for the financial professional and how to have those conversations. And what would you add to his view?
Todd is absolutely correct. Working with a client in their 20s or 30s is something very different than working with a client who is thinking about, their retirement. What I would add here is that insurance solutions, especially those built around protection, can boost emotional confidence while at the same time strengthening client relationships.
Really good thoughts, Lisa. And, the emotional confidence subject is important. How does that factor into the financial professionals and the agents' relationship and conversation with their clients?
We think it's very simple. Emotional confidence turns into emotional trust. And when clients feel protected and that they have a trusting relationship with their financial professional, they're able to, remain calm. They're able to implement the solutions that have been presented to them. And in addition to that, they are more likely to then, spread the message to their family and friends and, potentially provide referrals to that trusted relationship that they have with their financial professional. And we are lucky enough to be able to support them in that effort. And so we view this as a privilege, and we are very appreciative of the opportunity to help them secure more financial futures for folks.
Great to talk with you today, and I really hope to have you back in the future. Thanks for being on Off the Page.
We appreciate it, Chuck. Congratulations once again on Off the Page.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Daddy's still got it.
Everyone has something to protect. For Phil Thomas, it's wealth that gets bigger by the generation. And Prudential has life insurance for wherever you are in life, so you can protect your life's work. Who's your rock?
All right, this next segment, really excited about getting to talk to Gonzalo Garcia. He wrote an article in the January-February edition of Aspire that I hope you read. Gonzalo is a friend of mine. He's also the managing partner of AgencyOne. We've known that for a long time, but in transition now to be the Chief Advanced Marketing Officer at SPG Life and Annuity. Hope I got that right.
Advanced Markets.
Advanced Markets.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Marketing and upmarket, yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations, by the way, on that change, and really exciting. Welcome to you, Gonzalo. Let's get started. I was fascinated by your article, and I thought we'd just start with you talking about, at a high level, how the emotional brain fits in and how you got to this point, all the thoughts around everything you wrote about for this good article.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chuck. It's great to be here, and thrilled to have the opportunity to chat with you about this morning. I've been fascinated by the science of the brain for a long time. I studied psychology in undergrad, but I also have a daughter who has epilepsy. So I have spent way too many years in neurology departments in many hospitals across the country. So it's just a fascinating topic for me. What I start out with in this article is really about kind of the basics of the brain, right? The amygdala, and people have heard terms like the amygdala hijack or something, and I'll just kind of quickly explain what that is. Most people under stress or in an environment where they feel threatened never get to the part of the brain where the logical and emotional side of planning and thinking forward begins to happen. So I think it's really important to kind of understand that first process, because at the end of the day, if we can't understand that process, and people are sitting there in front of you and they've got their arms locked, or they're sitting back in their chair, or you can see that they're uncomfortable, you've got to break that down, because you're never going to get them to begin to think more logically around the planning side of things.
Yeah, and it's so important, and to overlook it, you could blow the whole thing. In your article, you talked about 97% of wealth transfer type planning fails, and it, I think, must be a lot due to not really being tuned into what is really going on in the client's brain, and that kind of fight or flight, the things that they're worried about, the real emotional side. Can you share some, not necessarily specific examples of, but where you see that playing in an actual client and advisor relationship?
A lot of people in our profession, they immediately pull out, here's a whole life illustration, or here's a buy-sell agreement, or here's a trust, or whatever. And, you start throwing out numbers and internal rates of return, what the premium is and what the death benefit is. And a lot of times we haven't really broken down the client in a way that you need to kind of understand what makes them tick, right? So let's change the conversation from products to solutions. And if you're offering solutions, you need to understand, and you need to help the client understand and recognize that there is, in fact, a problem or a risk. Think about, as you're having conversations with clients, and ask them questions maybe like this: if you could transfer all your financial wealth without any tax, or have grateful children, which would you pick? If you could average 12% return on your investments, or have children who are self-reliant, self-sufficient, productive, and mature, which would you pick? Right?
Wow.
You begin to ask those kinds of questions, and it gives you an awful lot of information on what sort of solution then you approach. Notice we're not opening up with, here's a long-term care illustration, or here's a whole life illustration. It's, let's unpack what is really important to the client. And that gets back to the whole brain issue and the rational response outside of the amygdala.
Yeah, no numbers, no actual products. We're not talking carriers. We're not even talking about underwriting. I think that's what's really exciting for our the readers and the audience for our program here, is that you need to spend time doing that, get good at that. In the article, you talk about some undermining factors that I did understand when I read them several times, but I really wanted you to go a little deeper and kind of give us some additional context. And these are really important when the word undermining is so, it just really tells you, okay, this could go badly if, and one of them was status quo bias.
Well, the status quo bias, it's kind of like, inertia, right? So kind of keeping things the way they are. Interestingly enough, one of the things I talk about is changing old beneficiary designations. I know someone very closely, I won't say who it is, 20 years after their divorce, his ex-wife was still the beneficiary of his life.
Come on. Yeah.
It's things like that. Yeah, we're good. Everything's fine. Don't need to make lots of changes in my life. But there are things that, financial plans need to be updated. Estate plans need to be updated. Protections need to be assessed and dealt with if not, because life changes, right? So it's really easy to take the path of least resistance and not do the things that really need to get done.
Yeah, the advisor
for that.
You sure do, and that advisor is like a therapist, but also the tactical person. And maybe you gotta push a little, right? And sometimes we need that to actually make something happen.
There's another example of that, which I always find fascinating. How many times have you had a business owner and you ask them if they had a buy-sell agreement, and they say yes, and they pull out a document from their drawer in their desk, and it's not signed?
Right.
How many times do you have a trust that was drafted by an attorney, and you spent good money to draft this trust, and it was never executed? Or you executed a trust but never retitled property, such as in a living trust. Life gets in the way. But oftentimes, again, you have that emotional thing that sometimes people just don't want to finish what they started, knowing that it's kind of a longer term issue. I'll deal with that tomorrow.
Certainly, there is a part 2 of this subject that will be coming out in a future edition. So I'm happy that I think we might have you back, at least for that, and maybe several more. I really enjoy getting to interview you for Off the Page and getting to know you. I think about 10 years ago. And kept in touch, and just really enjoyed talking with you today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. It's a real pleasure, and love what you guys are doing with Aspire Magazine.
Thank you. Well, we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Take care.
You can find Gonzalo's full article on page 12 of the January-February edition of Aspire magazine for 2026. Link in the description.
All right, I'm really happy to introduce our next guest, Kevin Brayton, Executive Vice President of Business Growth and Market Expansion at Prudential. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, Chuck. Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're so glad you're on with us. And your company and you sponsored the article written by Gonzalo, From Portfolios to People, really good subject matter for advisors to pay attention to. Wanted to ask you your own advice and about strategies that advisors can use to really think more about the people first and less about the portfolio and the numbers first.
I've been fortunate enough to be in this business for over 30 years now, and the entirety of my career has been spent around advisors. And one of the most important things that I've learned in my time and throughout the history of my career has been, moving away from transactional type financial planning and moving more towards a client-centric type of experience. And what I mean by that, and this will be no surprise to many people, but the more often we can spend time listening and discovering and uncovering wants and needs that clients are expecting, that's how we can really unlock real opportunities for clients to engage and for clients to, get in the right types of financial plans with the right types of solutions that are going to help them with the right outcomes.
I think that's excellent. And really, it's important for advisors to pay attention to that. I love the listing part. We're so anxious to kind of get to the bottom line, bring up the numbers. But it's amazing if you take the time and they trust you and you listen, like you said, you'll come up with a much better plan. He also talked about in this kind of the tail end of the article about some biases that occur for clients. It's several of them that I encourage everyone to read those. Can you pick out a couple from your mind that stand out and some strategies around overcoming those biases?
Yeah, sure. The first is really the present bias, and that is how clients systematically overvalue today's comfort and undervalue the security for tomorrow. And I think that really gets at the heart of trying to move clients in the direction of what we had just talked about and engaging them more often and listening and learning from the clients, but helping the clients understand that this is a journey. Holistic financial planning is a journey, and these products that they are looking at are designed to serve a purpose that helps them get from point A to point B. And sometimes the distance between point A and point B is decades long.
I really like the part about checking in, and we talked about listening in your first answer, but also about the importance of that annual review. And maybe it's even more often than annual when lives are changing and big things are happening. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, I've never once in my career heard of a client complaining that an advisor was checking in too often.
Right. Call anytime, right? We're here to help. And really good information. And I want to thank you for your regular segment sponsor for Off the Page this year. We're actually going to have Gonzalo back to write an article in the next edition of Aspire, kind of taking this a little bit further from portfolios to people. And just really good to have your company behind us and putting that good information out there, and look forward to having you back many times in the future, Kev.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well, Chuck. Always a pleasure, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, see you soon.
See ya.
This segment is sponsored by Pan American Life. At Pan American Life, service isn't just what we do, it's who we are. We stand beside our agents with real support, real answers, and a leadership team that listens. When you partner with us, you're backed by a company built on trust and dedicated to helping you serve your clients with confidence. Pan American Life, where exceptional service empowers exceptional agents. Visit palig.com today. Well, I am very excited about this next segment with some new friends of mine from Pan American Life Insurance Group. We've got Luke Cosme here. He is their
Senior Vice President for all of U.S. Life Sales, Marketing, and Operations. So welcome to you, Lou.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
And we also have Carmen Millie Gomez, Sales Vice President for the U.S. Hispanic market with Pan American Life. So welcome to you, Millie.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
We're going to jump right into the conversation. I happen to have a lot of interest in the foreign national market. I feel like I know my way around. We've got a lot of FAs, BJs listening. I wanted you to really just kind of start out high level about the foreign national market, Lou.
Absolutely. So the foreign national market, when you think of that title, it's a bucket that gets a lot of things thrown into it. So for most companies, they look at a foreign national as anybody that isn't a U.S. citizen. And that's understandable in some ways because there might be a lack of comfort or a lack of understanding of the risk profile of a foreign national. But it's also in some ways not fair to the people who live here in the U.S. So, and I'm going to throw stats out there from time to time that'll be approximations. But approximately 20 million people in the U.S. are legal permanent residents. And when you look at these people, they're going through the immigration process, they live here, they work here. The risk profile from a life insurance perspective is very similar to that of a U.S. citizen who lives here. So one of the things that we look at is rather than saying everyone's a foreign national, everyone else is a U.S. citizen, we look at it from a residency perspective. So this person is a U.S. resident. We try to treat them exactly the same as we do everybody else who lives here, provided that they're a legal resident, they've got a job, and they're going through that process.
You know, and it's really important for the FAs especially, but even BGAs that work in this market, not to be, not to rule out going into that marketplace. It's the same, and I know your company makes it very easy. What I also think is interesting, and Millie, to have you talk about a really huge market in the United States, that's the Hispanic marketplace. Kind of give us the overview there, kind of who you work with across the country, and kind of some frame of reference around the whole Hispanic marketplace.
Well, thank you, Chuck. One of the things that we have the expertise in our company is just that, right? In the Hispanic market. It goes back to the core of our story from back in 1911, and I'm proud to say that across all of the years, we've done it very well. And so knowing our Hispanic market and working with them, it's very, very cultural, very natural to us. And we have this great opportunity here in the United States right now. And we have had it for a while, but it has been not really taken advantage of in a good way to be able to provide coverage to our non-residents or our residents here in the U.S., Hispanic residents.
You know, what I really like about that is I want FAs to realize that, again, not to be afraid of that marketplace. And there are resources like at your company, BGAs that work with your company and others that work in that marketplace. And it's a big market. There's definitely differences, right? And some differences that people need to be aware of, especially FAs with their clients. What are some of the support needs and some things that you do and that are necessary in this marketplace, Luke?
So as we were just saying, the risk profile for legal residents here in the U.S. is very similar, but the needs can be different. So life insurance products can be complex. The process itself can be foreign to people that haven't been through it. So one of the things to really help clients in this space is to have the educational materials that they can take and that they can truly understand. And for a lot of folks, they may have conversational English, they may speak English quite well, but to truly understand how the product might work, to truly understand what the process is going to be and why they have to do some of the things, they really need to see that in their first language. And it's more than just taking a brochure and translating it from English into Spanish. Right. You have to have somebody that works with them that understands where they are, that may have been sitting in that same seat 5, 10, 15 years ago, that understands the concerns that they have about family, whether that be, cultural concerns, whether that's something that they share with someone else as well. You want to have that, not only that empathetic, but that sympathetic approach to how you train clients and how you train agents. Your question, though, when you're talking about advisors and whether or not they should take a look at this market, The market is enormous. I think we expect by 2030, 20% of the U.S. population will be Hispanic. Wow. That's 60 million plus people in the U.S. And if you look at LIMER statistics, that is the cultural group that has the lowest percentage of life insurance ownership. And that amount continues to drop year after year. So if you're an advisor saying, how do I make a difference? How can I go out there and truly do what I feel like I was born to do? This is the perfect opportunity, and it's a huge greenfield opportunity for you.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I mean, we already have a U.S. coverage gap, right? Mm-hmm. All Americans. And then as you described the Hispanic market, the coverage gap is even bigger. Mm-hmm. And I know that's where Millie focuses her attention. Anything you would add, Millie? And I was thinking about process and some of the requirements that Luke was talking about, but even are there unique aspects of the sales process that you wanted to speak to for the Hispanic marketplace?
Thank you, Chuck. And actually, I wanted to add something to what Luke said, which is so important, exactly what he said. And there are things that as a company we have identified that helps us cater to our Hispanic market. And number one is that trust matters to our Hispanic client. It is so important. You may have the tallest building, right? But that customer is going to come to their advisor for help. It's important to have that cultural nuance. It's so essential for us to reach that customer. And last but not least is understand how unique they are. And in order for that education to flow through, we have to understand the culture to be able to break through the taboos in the Hispanic market and in our culture. And we have done that very well throughout the years, understanding just that need to be able to cater and provide exactly what they need for life protection.
Yeah, and I just want FAs to feel good about working in this market. I think you said 60 million Americans by the year 2030, if I caught that right. Yep. So this is a big market in the Hispanic marketplace, and BGAs and others that really support that marketplace. I think it's really vital to pay attention to it, and maybe it's a good opportunity for you to grow your business with a really important part of our population in the United States. So Luke, Millie, great to have you with us today on Off the Page. I wanted to thank you both. Luke, we'll hopefully see you again in the future.
I certainly hope so. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, and you too, Millie. And good luck with your sales year in 2026.
Thank you so much, Chuck. Thank you for having us.
Take care.
You can find Luke's full article on page 16 of the January-February edition of Aspire magazine for 2026. Link in the description. This segment is sponsored by MassMutual. Meet UL Guard, MassMutual Strategic Distributors' new guaranteed universal life insurance policy, helping to secure clients' financial futures and the futures of their loved ones. Explore client solutions at mmsd.massmutual.com. MassMutual Strategic Distributors, built for your business.
Well, our next segment is with Josh Lubas from MassMutual. He's the head of life and DI distribution there, wrote an article in the most recent January-February edition of Aspire, Rediscovering the Value of Protection. Josh, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
We're glad to have you. Great to getting to know you through this. And your article was exceptional. I happen to be a big fan of protection and just being in the business so long and the value of that peace of mind that you get from the death benefit. But there's been some changes. Obviously, you've been at this for 20 plus years, and there's the downside of going from protection to commodity. Could you kind of talk about that and some of the historical shifts that have happened over the years?
Sure. For me, Chuck, it's the whole essence of the article, right? I've been pretty passionate about the fact I've talked about it on main stage at various meetings, and I talk about the shift that we've seen in how producers used to sit across the table, articulate the value, the importance of life and disability and protection planning in general. And they would focus on what could happen if you became too sick or hurt to work, or if you died too soon, or frankly, lived too long, right? All of those things are concerns. We see a lot of producers who put a bunch of carriers on a spreadsheet. We go with the least expensive and we say, hey, this is you're going to get $1 million of life insurance. This is the cheapest one. It's the right choice. And the question becomes, is it the right choice? It might be. Going with a very, very inexpensive term product that you can get in a matter of minutes might be phenomenal and perfect and all you need at that time. But other scenarios dictate different things.
Yeah, and meanwhile, there's been all these demographic shifts that you mentioned in the article. And what I like about this episode, doing these episodes, is we get to go deeper, the things that you were thinking about when you were writing it. Talk about what's happened with the demographic shift and how the advisors that are watching and listening to us here can really respond to the client needs for their entire lifetime related to protection.
Yeah. When I think about life insurance, right, the reality is it's a product that you could own for almost 100 years. That's a wild thought. We actually have one of our oldest customers, right, is 104 years old. And it's amazing how long they've had their policy with us. It's something that you carry with you forever. But the reality is demographics have changed. So go back to 1900, the average life expectancy was 47 years old. 47, right? Of course people were concerned about dying. But now you start to see it, significantly higher. We're near 80 years old. We see consumers getting married older in life, buying homes older in life, settling down, having children older in life. Now, what does that mean and why is that important? At the end of the day, you need to think about what do consumers actually care about. We would go out and we'd meet with a 25 or 30-year-old and we would talk to them about, what happens if you were to die too soon and the importance of life insurance protection for themselves, their home, take care of the mortgage, protect the kids. Well, many 30-year-olds are not married, they don't have a home, and they don't have any children. So what are they concerned about? They're concerned about protecting their lifestyle. Take the journey with the consumer rather than saying, you need life insurance, you need permanent protection. Perhaps it's a disability sale first, and then you stick with that consumer. Their salary goes up, their lifestyle changes, and then a life insurance need exists, and you have the opportunity to cross-sell to them. That's creating clients for life, for me, is the dream of any producer who's out there.
I'm so glad you mentioned DI, though, because we don't talk about it enough. I have to admit, I've been in this business a long time. I know what DI stands for, right? But knowing that you...
well, you got one step. You're doing better than a lot.
But yeah, it just hasn't been a product that really has played a big role in my career. But I know that you head up the distribution for DI at your company. And just tell our audience, the advisors especially, where DI fits and how to have those conversations at a high level here.
Yeah. So Chuck, the whole reason that I love protection really started with an understanding of disability insurance. I actually started my career in disability claims. Cool. So I saw firsthand people becoming too sick or hurt to work, arguably in the most tumultuous time of their life, and they're trying to figure out how to survive. And when they were able to go to a great carrier who approved that claim and started cutting that check, everything changed. They became focused on getting healthy. They became focused on caring for their family. And then ultimately getting back to being a contributing member of society, getting back to work and meeting all their goals personally and professionally. But the reality is, what did that do? That kind of pivoted me to say, more people need to know about this. Not enough are protecting their ability to work and arguably their most valuable asset, which is their ability to earn an income. So most recently, we've entered into a partnership with MIT. In concert with them, we've created a bit of a study, and it uncovered some pretty crazy stats. So 26.3% of the respondents that we spoke with owned disability insurance. Only 25% were even slightly familiar with DI, and the majority of people who were familiar with DI got that education from their employer. So they only know about group LTD. They don't know about the gaps that exist with things like taxation and things like that. And then the scarier one is over 50% believe that there's a pretty much 0% chance that they're going to become too sick or hurt to work. Yeah. Now, when I see advancements in medical technology, I'll talk about cancer. Cancer is the one that scares me. Advancements in medical technology allow treatments to last longer, therefore people live longer. Cancer used to be a death sentence. In today's world, it's not as much anymore. So people are becoming too sick or hurt for a period of time, but ultimately getting back to work. So what used to be solved by life insurance, now you start to think about, wait a minute, if I can live with stage 4 lung cancer till I'm 85 years old, right? What and how is my life going to be impacted? And what do I do if I can't still continue to work? So that's where disability really comes into play. So something that we've really pushed and it has been a near and dear to my heart, is getting that story out there. And we've seen a massive shift in life-focused BGAs selling disability insurance as a differentiation of their portfolio and what they're offering to the producers that they work with. So we love it on both sides. We love it for the consumer, we love it for the BGAs, and ultimately we love it for the FAs who have an opportunity to diversify their practice with a more robust portfolio.
Boy, so well said, and very cool that your career started out in disability. So mine started out on the life side. And I have to tell you, your article and our conversation today has had an impact on me. I've been preaching the benefits of death benefit protection for as long as I can remember. I truly believe in it. But talking to you today, I really understand that DI protection is so important. And those stats kind of tell the story. I feel like I'm in that category that I barely know about it, right? So thank you for unveiling that for me. I'm going to become more knowledgeable thanks to you. And Josh J, it was just great getting to talk to you today. I hope we can have you back for a future segment on Off the Page. And it's been great getting to know you. Thanks for being with us today.
Love what you guys are doing for the entire industry. I'm so much gratitude from me to you. So thank you so much for the time today.
Great. We'll see you again in the future. Take care.
Sounds great. Thank you.
You can find Josh's full article on page 24 of the January-February edition of Aspire magazine for 2026. Link in the description. The Protectors, powered by NAFA, the first event to bring life and annuity under one roof. Join us in Las Vegas, November 9th through 11th. Learn more at protectorsvegas.com.
Well, that is a wrap of episode 1 of Off the Page. What a great opportunity to get to share with you today. We like to close our episodes. Our plan is to close with a thought leader, somebody with tremendous insight and expertise about industry. And that person for today's episode is Mr. Bill Shelow. He is the president and chief executive officer of Libra Insurance Partners. Been in the life industry for 47 years, working with now with the Libra firms, 84 altogether, 22 life carriers. So tremendous access and connections with people and all of the ideas that are happening and issues. And today I wanted to have Bill join us. Bill, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good to have you here. And just wanted to close today's episode with current insights from you, things that are happening and what you think our advisors, BGAs, and other audience members should be thinking about right now.
Well, Chuck, thanks. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to tell you, it's an honor to be here on your first episode of Off the Page. It's interesting. If you take a look at the article I wrote for the latest Aspire magazine, I list 6 questions that you should answer for a business if you're looking to provide clarity. And one of the first questions is, why do we exist? And I've been in this business, as you said, for 47 years. And it is truly one of the greatest businesses in the country. And I think that, the reason we exist is obviously to provide financial security for families and businesses when death occurs, to transfer wealth, to provide income. I mean, it may be one of the noblest industries in the country right now. And I think the second question is, how do we behave? And it's interesting to me because I think that, with an industry like ours that focuses on financial security, one of the things that we have to have is integrity. We have to have trust. And that's the way we have to behave. And I think, as I look at what's going on in the industry today, and, we see a lot of stuff in the news that maybe doesn't quite align the way we'd like it to from that aspect of our business. So I think that as we get into 2026 and beyond, I think that, our BGAs, advisors, the folks that are dealing with clients, just a good dose of realism to say, we have products that you can trust, and here's how they're going to perform, as opposed to, doing things like Chuck, you and I talked about this, We remember the days of vanishing premiums. We remember the days of all these sales concepts that didn't quite work out the right way. And I think that, there's a lot more at risk today. And I hope that as we get into 2026 and beyond, that we deal with our clients in a way of integrity, trust, and realism with respect to the products that we sell.
I love it, Bill. Integrity, trust, and realism. And it's really a great way to kind of bring this episode to a close, because that's the information we want to make available to all of you that are watching and listening today. So important that we provide good information. We're going to have all the experts and then people, visionaries like Bill, that can really help kind of put it all together. So, Bill, a delight to have you be our closing for episode 1, and look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thanks, Chuck. A real honor. I appreciate it.
You've been tuned in to Off the Page with Aspire Magazine. Thank you from our Off the Page team. Executive producer Pam Sheehan, host and associate producer Chuck Anderson, videographer and director Eric Lindholm. We look forward to having you join us on future Off the Page episodes. Until then, be happy and be well.